For more than 30 years, Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer have been linked through one of Hollywood's most unforgettable on-screen partnerships in the Western classic Tombstone. Their powerful chemistry sparked years of rumors about what really happened behind the scenes during the movie's difficult and unpredictable production. Now, at 75, Kurt Russell has finally opened up about his longtime co-star and friend. What did he reveal about Val Kilmer, and what was the real story behind their legendary connection on set? Come with us as we uncover the hidden story behind the making of Tombstone. Before fans started arguing over what happened between Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, there was simply the movie itself. Today, it's seen as one of the greatest westerns ever made. But when filming began in Arizona during the spring of 1993, nobody expected the rocky road ahead. What looked like a normal Hollywood production quickly ran into unexpected problems, major creative changes, and behind-the-scenes stories that people still talk about years later. Yet once the cameras rolled, none of that tension showed up on screen. Instead, audiences watched a gripping retelling of one of the Old West's most famous stories. Based on real events in southeastern Arizona during the 1880s, the film followed Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Johnny Ringo, and Curly Bill Brocious as rising tensions led to the famous gunfight at the OK Corral and the violent events that followed. With exciting action, unforgettable characters, and emotional moments, Tombstone felt larger than life. The cast featured Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, Dana Delany, Charlton Heston, and narration by Robert Mitchum. Every actor delivered a memorable performance, but few viewers knew the production was facing serious challenges behind the scenes. The first major obstacle appeared almost immediately when screenwriter Kevin Jarre stepped into the director's chair for his first time directing a feature film. It was a huge responsibility, and before long, the production started falling behind. Important scenes weren't getting finished. Valuable filming days were disappearing, and studio concerns kept growing. Just weeks after production began, Kevin Jarre was removed from the project. Veteran director George P. Cosmatos stepped in to keep the movie on track, but taking over halfway through filming was never an easy job. Some welcomed the change, while others questioned where the film was headed. Even years later, cast and crew shared different memories, with conflicting stories about what really happened behind the scenes. As filming moved forward, the script changed in a big way. Entire storylines were cut, scenes were rewritten, and the movie slowly became tighter and more focused than the original version. At the time, audiences had no idea how much the film was changing. They only saw the finished Western when it finally reached theaters. Even with all the uncertainty, the team stayed committed to making Tombstone feel as authentic as possible. Costumes, props, and sets were carefully crafted to capture the spirit of the Old West. Val Kilmer spent countless hours perfecting Doc Holliday's lightning-fast draw and distinctive Southern voice, while the cast paid close attention to even the smallest historical details, including their facial hair. When Tombstone premiered on Christmas Day in 1993, it faced tough competition during the holiday season. Even so, audiences embraced it. Strong word of mouth helped the film earn more than $73 million worldwide. Critics praised its performances and storytelling, while Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday quickly became one of the most iconic performances in Western film history. Over the years, Tombstone grew from a box office hit into a true cult classic. But as the movie's reputation got bigger, so did the stories about what really happened during production. Cast and crew members began sharing very different memories of life on set. Some stories matched, while others completely disagreed. Decades later, those unanswered questions gained new attention after Kurt Russell finally shared his side of the story. Long before Tombstone made Kurt Russell one of the most memorable Wyatt Earps ever seen on screen, he had already built an incredible career. By the time filming began in 1993, Russell wasn't just another Hollywood star taking on a Western. He was a seasoned actor who had grown up in the entertainment business, reinvented himself more than once, and shown he could succeed in almost any genre. Looking back at his journey helps explain why he became such an important figure during the making of Tombstone, and why people still pay close attention to what he says about the film today. Kurt Vogel Russell was born on the 17th of March, 1951, in Springfield, Massachusetts, into a family where performing was already part of daily life. His father, Bing Russell, was a respected actor known for many television shows and westerns, while his mother, Louise Crone Russell, worked as a dancer. The family later moved to California, where Kurt grew up in Thousand Oaks with his three sisters, Jill, Jamie, and Jody. Although acting was part of his life from an early age, it wasn't his only dream. Baseball became one of Kurt Russell's biggest passions. Throughout grade school and high school, he stood out as a talented second baseman who spent countless hours on the field. He graduated from Thousand Oaks High School in 1969, but even before then, he was already building a name for himself as a young actor. Russell's acting career started incredibly early. In 1962, he made his television debut with appearances on Dennis the Menace and the Dick Powell Theater. That same year, he auditioned for the baseball film Safe at Home, hoping it would give him the chance to meet two of his heroes, Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. Even though he didn't get the role, he didn't let that setback stop him. More opportunities quickly followed. He appeared in the travels of Jamie McFeeters and later landed guest roles in popular shows like The Man from UNCLE and Gilligan's Island. In 1963, he made his big screen debut in It Happened at the World's Fair, launching what would become one of Hollywood's longest-lasting careers. His natural charm soon caught the attention of Walt Disney Studios. While many young actors struggled to find steady work, Russell became one of Disney's most familiar faces, starting with Follow Me, Boys. In 1966, he starred in successful family films like The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes and Superdad, winning over a whole new generation of fans. Even as his acting career took off, Russell refused to walk away from baseball. Instead, he chased both dreams at the same time. In 1971, he signed a minor league contract and spent 2 seasons playing Class A baseball in the Northwest League, earning recognition as an all-star infielder. For a while, it looked like professional baseball could become his future. Then everything changed. In 1973, after reaching the Class AA level in El Paso, Russell suffered a serious shoulder injury that required surgery. The injury ended his baseball career before he ever had the chance to reach the major leagues. Losing baseball was a heartbreaking setback, especially after dedicating so much of his life to the sport. Ironically, baseball had always been part of Kurt Russell's family. His father played professionally in the minor leagues, and years later, his nephew Matt Franco reached Major League Baseball. While balancing acting and sports, Russell was also serving in the California Air National Guard. Between 1969 and 1975, he was part of the 146th Tactical Airlift Wing, based in Van Nuys, adding another impressive chapter to his early years. Once baseball was no longer an option, he put all his focus back into acting. Unlike many child stars whose careers slowed down as they got older, Russell made the jump into adult roles with remarkable success. Instead of being defined by his Disney image, he took on more mature and challenging characters that revealed a completely different side of his talent. That change became clear throughout the 1970s. His performances in the television films The Deadly Tower and Elvis earned strong praise, especially his portrayal of Elvis Presley. The project also introduced him to director John Carpenter, starting one of Hollywood's most successful actor-director partnerships. Together, they created several memorable films, beginning with Escape from New York in 1981. Russell's performance as Snake Plissken quickly became legendary. The eye-patch-wearing anti-hero turned into one of the most recognizable action characters of the decade. while the film later earned cult classic status and helped establish Russell as a major leading man. The success continued with The Thing in 1982, which would later be recognized as one of the most influential science fiction horror films ever made. He later showed his dramatic range alongside Meryl Streep in Silkwood, before starring with Goldie Hawn in Swing Shift in 1984. Although the movie struggled at the box office, it changed Russell's personal life forever, as the two began a relationship that became one of Hollywood's longest-lasting and most admired partnerships. Throughout the rest of the 1980s, Kurt Russell showed he could succeed in almost any genre. He moved easily between crime dramas, thrillers, action films, and comedies. Movies like The Mean Season, Tequila Sunrise, and Tango and Cash kept him among Hollywood's biggest stars, while Backdraft in 1991 reminded audiences he could handle powerful drama just as well as high-energy action. Then came Tombstone, released in 1993. The film became another major milestone in Russell's career. His portrayal of Wyatt Earp gave the story its foundation and helped turn the Western into a box office success that later became a cult classic. While audiences loved what they saw on screen, few realized the production had become one of Hollywood's most talked-about film sets. As the years passed, more behind-the-scenes stories began to surface, adding even more mystery to a movie that was already legendary. Russell's career kept rolling after Tombstone. He starred in Stargate before reuniting with John Carpenter for Escape from L.A. Over the following years, he continued showing his range with films like Miracle, Poseidon, Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof, and The Hateful Eight, Deepwater Horizon, several Fast and Furious movies, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He also entertained audiences as Santa Claus in The Christmas Chronicles, and later appeared in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. By Tombstone's 30th anniversary, Russell had built a career spanning more than 6 decades. Even so, one question refused to fade. The making of Tombstone remained surrounded by speculation, and years later, Russell finally decided to share his own account of what happened behind the scenes. The story behind Tombstone's legendary cast is even more surprising than many fans realize. Today, it's almost impossible to picture anyone other than Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer leading the film. But early on, neither actor was expected to wear those famous costumes. If a few key decisions had gone differently, audiences could have seen a completely different version of Tombstone. The role of Wyatt Earp was first offered to Kevin Costner, while Willem Dafoe was reportedly considered for Doc Holliday. At the time, Costner was deeply interested in telling Wyatt Earp's story. Instead of joining Tombstone, Costner chose to make his own film about the legendary lawman. That decision led to the release of Wyatt Earp in 1994. Val Kilmer's path almost changed too. He was first drawn to the project because of Costner's involvement, but even after Costner left, Kilmer stayed committed. That choice turned out to be one of the most important in the movie's history. Kilmer's performance as the sharp-witted but seriously ill Doc Holliday became one of the most praised roles of his career. Before Kurt Russell officially took the role of Wyatt Earp, the filmmakers had also hoped to cast his close friend Jeff Bridges. Bridges ultimately passed on the role, opening the door for Russell. That single casting change helped shape the movie fans know today. While the cast was still coming together, screenwriter Kevin Jarre took an unusual approach to research. Instead of relying only on books and historical records, he temporarily moved to Tombstone, Arizona, to experience the town firsthand. Jarre explored famous locations tied to Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and even attended cowboy camp, where he learned horseback riding, firearm handling, and how 19th-century lawmen carried themselves. Instead of only writing about the Old West, Kevin Jarre wanted to understand what life there actually felt like. That dedication showed in the final screenplay, and many historians and Western fans still consider Tombstone one of the most convincing portrayals of the gunfight at the OK Corral ever filmed. The incredible attention to detail reached far beyond the script. It even included something as simple as facial hair. Sam Elliott's unforgettable mustache as Virgil Earp became nearly as famous as his performance. It looked perfectly suited to the Old West, and there's an interesting historical connection often mentioned alongside it. According to reports, Elliott's family lineage connects to descendants of Wyatt Earp, making his on-screen look an unusual coincidence tied to the famous lawman's family. To make the mustache stand out even more, the makeup team enhanced it with black mascara, so it appeared fuller on camera. Director George P. Cosmatos brought that same passion to every part of the movie. For him, Tombstone was much more than another directing job. It was the chance to fulfill a dream he'd carried since childhood. Growing up in Italy, he watched the 1957 film Gunfight at the OK Corral starring Burt Lancaster, and hoped one day to direct his own version of that legendary story. When that opportunity finally came, Cosmatos made sure the climactic gunfight was filmed at the actual OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona, adding another layer of authenticity. Throughout production, he stayed committed to historical detail and approached the story as a sweeping frontier tragedy rather than just another Western. Val Kilmer showed the same level of dedication while preparing to play Doc Holliday. Although the real Holliday wasn't known for playing the banjo, Kilmer learned enough to make those scenes feel natural. Kurt Russell prepared just as seriously, training with legendary firearms instructor Thel Reed to master the weapons commonly used during the 1880s. He trained with classic single-action revolvers, learning everything from quick draws to speed loading and fanning the hammer. Russell didn't just want to look convincing, he wanted every movement to reflect the techniques used by real frontier lawmen. That preparation gave the gunfights a level of realism that still stands out today. The world around those performances was built with the same care. Production designer Catherine Hardwick and her team recreated the town of Tombstone using historical photos, architectural drawings, and original records from the era. The huge 1-2-acre set included more than 65 buildings built especially for the film. Actors later said walking through the finished town truly felt like stepping back into 1881, making it easier to disappear into their roles. Some of the movie's most unforgettable moments also came from unexpected improvisation. Billy Bob Thornton's performance as Johnny Tyler became a fan favorite, even though much of the scene wasn't fully scripted. He was encouraged to play an intimidating bully, giving him room to create the memorable confrontation with Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp. The risk paid off and helped highlight Thornton's talent before he became one of Hollywood's most respected actors. Not every storyline made it into the final cut, though. One of the biggest changes involved the romance between Wyatt Earp and Josephine Marcus, played by Dana Delaney. Early versions of Tombstone spent much more time on their relationship, but test audiences felt it distracted from the movie's main story. Because of that feedback, much of the romance was removed before release. Although parts of those scenes remain, the edits gave the film a tighter focus. By trimming the subplot, the filmmakers kept the spotlight on the themes that continue to define Tombstone: loyalty, sacrifice, revenge, and the events that turned a small Arizona town into a legendary part of American history. The movie also surprised audiences with how far it was willing to push certain moments. One scene that sparked strong reactions featured Curly Bill Brocious making a disturbing remark about violence against Mexicans. The act was never shown on screen, but the dialogue alone left a lasting impression on many viewers in 1993. At a time when many Hollywood westerns avoided references to such brutal acts, that scene felt bold and controversial. Today, after years of more graphic movies and television, many viewers may react differently. Back then, though, it made it clear that Tombstone wasn't trying to present a softened version of the Old West. Instead, the film aimed to show how harsh and dangerous that world could be. For Kurt Russell, Tombstone meant far more than another starring role. Playing Wyatt Earp fulfilled a dream he had carried since childhood. Growing up, he admired classic Western stars like John Wayne and Roy Rogers. imagining that one day he might play a legendary lawman himself. Years before becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Russell appeared alongside Elvis Presley in It Happened at the World's Fair. Landing the role of Wyatt Earp decades later felt like the reward for years of hard work, making Tombstone one of the most meaningful projects of his career. That dedication was shared by the entire cast. Before filming began, everyone took part in an intense 2-week boot camp at Old Tucson Studios. The goal wasn't just to make the actors look convincing. They were expected to move, ride, and handle equipment like people living in the 1880s. The cast trained in horseback riding, firearm handling, stagecoach driving, blacksmithing, and other practical frontier skills. By the time filming started, they weren't simply wearing cowboy hats and carrying revolvers. They had learned how to use them naturally, giving every scene an extra level of authenticity that helped Tombstone stand apart from many other westerns. Even the props reflected that commitment to historical detail. One of Doc Holliday's most recognizable accessories was the elegant cup and saucer he used during card games. According to people connected with the production, the antique set was believed to have once belonged to the real Doc Holliday before being acquired from a private collector. Today, it is displayed at the Crystal Palace Saloon in Tombstone, Arizona. Another actor who almost never joined Tombstone was Sam Elliott. Before the film, the veteran star had largely stepped away from Hollywood after becoming frustrated with the industry. But the screenplay immediately caught his attention, and knowing Kurt Russell would play Wyatt Earp made returning even more appealing. Thankfully, Elliott accepted the role of Virgil Earp. His calm strength and commanding screen presence became one of the movie's greatest highlights and helped make the Earp family feel believable. Tombstone also arrived at the perfect time for the Western genre. By the early 1990s, Hollywood had slowed down on making major Westerns, and many believed audiences had lost interest in frontier stories. The film proved those doubts wrong. Its mix of action, memorable characters, and historical atmosphere drew viewers back and showed that Westerns could still find major success. In many ways, Tombstone helped breathe new life into a genre that had been fading for years. The filmmakers also blended real history into several key moments. Wyatt Earp's dramatic showdown with Curly Bill Brocious wasn't created entirely from fiction. Parts of the sequence were inspired by the real-life killing of outlaw John Wesley Hardin by El Paso gunman John Selman. Drawing from that historical event added extra weight to Wyatt's revenge story. Despite the movie's title, surprisingly little of Tombstone was filmed in the actual town, aside from the famous OK Corral sequence. Most of the production took place nearly 200 miles away in Mescal, Arizona. The team built a massive frontier town there because it was more practical and cost-effective than filming in Tombstone itself. Thanks to the detailed work, most viewers never noticed the difference. The transformation didn't stop with costumes and sets. Makeup artist Gil Rocco used specialized silicone prosthetics, originally developed for burn patients, to give the actors weathered skin, deeper wrinkles, and the rugged look of people shaped by years on the harsh frontier. The subtle effects made the world feel even more authentic. More than 30 years later, those countless details still help Tombstone stand above the rest. From its bold storytelling and demanding preparation to its careful production design and historical inspiration, every decision helped create a Western that continues to win over new audiences while remaining one of the genre's most respected films. For years, fans wondered what Kurt Russell really thought about Val Kilmer. Their unforgettable chemistry in Tombstone sparked endless speculation, with many asking whether they were simply great co-stars or had built a real friendship behind the scenes. Decades later, Russell shared a story that gave fans a much clearer answer. Looking back on the making of Tombstone, he said working with Kilmer had been an absolute pleasure. As filming wrapped, the cast followed an unofficial tradition of exchanging gifts. It wasn't required, but it became a thoughtful way to celebrate the end of an unforgettable production. Wanting to surprise Kilmer, Russell planned something far more memorable than a typical Hollywood gift. He even asked his driver to gather several of Kilmer's costume items, including his holster, gun, hat, and personalized chair, so they could be photographed as part of the presentation. But those keepsakes were only part of the surprise. Russell's main gift was inspired by Doc Holliday's character. He bought Kilmer a burial plot at Boot Hill Graveyard in Tombstone, Arizona, the historic cemetery connected with many figures from the Old West. It was meant as a dark joke that Russell believed Kilmer would appreciate. What happened next made the story even more remarkable. When Kilmer opened the gift, he asked his own driver to bring out Russell's present. In an incredible coincidence, Kilmer had come up with a similar idea. Instead of buying Russell a burial plot, he had purchased him an entire acre of land overlooking Boot Hill Cemetery. Without planning it, both actors had chosen gifts inspired by death and the Old West, a remarkable coincidence that perfectly reflected the connection they built while making Tombstone. Russell later said the exchange felt especially fitting. Doc Holliday was closely linked with death, while Wyatt Earp symbolized life, making their gifts feel strangely connected to the characters they brought to the screen. The story became even more meaningful after Val Kilmer passed away on the 1st of April, 2025, at the age of 65. His daughter, Mercedes Kilmer, confirmed that pneumonia was the cause of his death. Following the news, tributes poured in from across Hollywood, honoring his remarkable talent, creativity, and unforgettable performances. Russell's story offered a heartfelt glimpse into the genuine respect and friendship the two shared behind the cameras. Tombstone remains a classic because of unforgettable performances, powerful storytelling, and the lasting legacy left by its incredible cast. What's your favorite scene from Tombstone, and which performance stood out the most? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share it with other movie fans, and subscribe for more stories about Hollywood's biggest legends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.